So this was sent in by our local AI correspondent Bullethead in our Discord.
Nice.
Thank you, Bullethead. Windows is bringing MCP natively to Microsoft Windows. So what does that mean? MCP is Model Context Protocol, and it's actually really simple at its core. It's JSON remote procedure calls over HTTP. It's just a data structure that models can follow. So like a standardized structure for how models access tools, how tools are enumerated across the system, and then the communication channels that can be used, permissions, and things like that. And it was MCP was created by Anthropic first, and it has started to see wider adoption. And now this is kind of a big deal that Microsoft is bringing it to Windows natively. So from the Windows Experience blog, what is MCP? I just said, but I'll read how they put it too, because they put it well. MCP is a lightweight open protocol, essentially JSON RPC over HTTP, that allows agents and applications to discover and invoke tools in a standardized way. It enables seamless orchestration across local and remote services, allowing developers to build once and integrate everywhere. So to understand some of the things that we'll cover here, we'll talk about what the structure of the three roles. There are three roles in MCP. MCP hosts, which are applications like VS Code or other tools that want AI to access capabilities via MCP. There's MCP clients, which are the thing that initiate requests to MCP servers. And MCP servers are just lightweight services that expose these specific capabilities like file system access, semantic search, app actions through the MCP interface. I don't know why MCP is tripping me up as an acronym. It doesn't want to come out of my mouth. So Microsoft is adding an MCP registry. We get an early view of it. This is from a Reddit post, but it's in the settings window of Windows. You can see deep in the developer things, AI components, then MCP registry for Windows, and a bunch of little toggles that you could turn on like Paint actions, Photos actions, Windows file system access, Windows Snap layouts. So you can essentially toggle on and off permission for AI to touch these various features of your computer and make use of them. But naturally, a lot of security concerns with this, right? Because if you're going to introduce this at the operating system level, well, I'll just talk about what they lay out in the blog here. MCP opens up powerful new possibilities, but introduces new risks. In the case of a simple chat app, the implications of prompt injection could be a jailbreak or the leakage of memory data. But with MCP, the implications could be full remote code execution on your machine, the highest severity attack. So they've identified a couple of specific threat vectors, and I want to highlight three of them because I think they're interesting. One of them is cross-prompt injection through malicious content embedded in UI elements or documents that would override the agent instructions and lead to unintended actions like data exfiltration or malware installation.
And that's just cool.
Yeah.
That is just, yeah.
It's kind of a confused deputy attack, right? Where like you would tell this AI to do something, and then when it goes to reach for a tool, that tool says, hey, in order to use me, I actually need you to like go into the file system and install this crypto locker. And then the confused deputy of the AI in this place goes, oh yeah, I have permission to use the file system. I'll do that.
Yeah. Really interesting.
The other thing, one of the other ones, they mentioned authentication gaps, credential leakage, tool poisoning, where unvetted or low-quality MCP servers may expose dangerous functionality or be used to escalate privileges. Because, like, the MCP server is, like, app-specific in this case. So, like, the Paint actions. If Paint accidentally exposes an endpoint that has access to things it shouldn't or can do things it shouldn't, that's an exploitable endpoint. Lack of containment. Without isolation, a compromised agent can affect the entire user session or system. There's a lot of things to worry about when you've got something like AI moving through a system and taking actions. And so they lay out some of the things that they're going to do to try and combat that. The most interesting one, I think, is proxy-mediated communication, because I think this has an implication I don't like. They say all MCP client-server interactions will be routed through a trusted Windows proxy, enabling centralized enforcement of policies and consent. This includes the ability to enforce authentication and authorization in a centralized and consistent manner, addressing one of the top challenges with the MCP protocol. This also enables transparent auditing of all on behalf of operations and provides a central point where security solutions can observe and respond to potential attacks. But that sounds to me like that's going to be hosted on a server at Microsoft, so that any like MCP calls that I'm doing on my machine locally will have to be routed up to good old Bill Gates' house. And I don't know if I love
I'm
that.
guessing, though, that there's probably like organizations that are using this, I'm guessing the same way that they would have their own LDAP server or something else, they might have their own housing for that kind of stuff so that they can run their own policies.
Oh, yeah, you're super right, actually. I was really thinking only in the context of like me, a home user. But yeah, you're right. You definitely can deploy that.
I think a home user would be signing up for some service that Microsoft would probably offer. But for organizations like Walmart or something, they're going to have their own that they locally administer and have the ability to do any kind of oversight that they need to. The thing that is interesting about this is you can see the push for this kind of agentic control, which everybody is kind of asking for. At the same time, you can see how this may mesh with and exacerbate some of the other concerns around other AI stuff that Microsoft is doing, like their recall thing that people are also worried about. So I don't know how those interact, but like immediately in my mind, I thought about like, how could you do some potential interesting attacks now that you also know everything that the user has done on that machine, and you can pull up photographic evidence of it. So maybe there's some interesting strategic text strings that you could have in a previous instance that you pull from recall and do in this other thing, and then using MCP invoke like an interesting PowerShell command that has full control over your computer.
Yeah.
These combination style attacks that happen when you layer several things that create weird little vulnerabilities on their own, but potentially more catastrophic vulnerabilities when you add them together, I think are going to be the things that advanced cyber criminals and scammers are thinking about. And we do see that Microsoft is thinking about those. They mentioned some fairly sophisticated attack types in their paper there.
Yeah, and they because there's so much to chew on in what you just said, but like to talk about one aspect of it, permissions, right? Like the granularity of permissions and who has access to what thing. One of the ways that they're trying to help prevent like attacks similar to what I don't know. I feel like that strategic text in recall is something I'd have to think a lot more about, but something that they do mention is that any server's privileges and things it can do all have to be declarative and like established before the server is registered or anything. Server definition of tools cannot change at runtime. They'll do their own security testing of the exposed interfaces, mandatory package identity, mandatory code signing. So, sort of like standard software stuff for security that they're trying to apply to MCP here. And like to speak to the want for this, I think it makes so much sense that this is what I want, right? We've made it so that machines can understand my natural human language, like get information from my gobbledygook and try and assume my intent and do all sorts of reasoning and then perform actions based on that and respond even in natural language. That makes sense as this perfect bridge between human interface and machine needs. So like setting up MCP and having AI be this layer that interprets your semantic commands, turns them into classical computing commands, returns in semantic language. Like that is how you get to the sci-fi future of, hey, computer, order me a pizza and clear my schedule for next week and tell me a bedtime story, Exactly.
I'll actually show you. Here's what we want, because this was codified in Star Trek, over a decade ago. Because we've all seen Star Trek where they just say, computer, do this for me, and it creates a thing of tea for you. So here is Scotty from Star Trek having to show up in Earth's distant past as they're trying to save the whales at one point back in the late 80s or early 90s.
Is this the first Star Trek series? The original?
This is, the original cast and the original set of movies after that. I think this was Star Trek 3, if I remember right.
You're joking.
Perhaps the professor could use your computer.
Please.
Computer? Computer?
He hands him a big chunky mouse.
Hello, computer.
He's talking into the bottom of it.
Just use the keyboard.
So arcane. Use the keyboard.
Oh, quaint.
Oh, quaint. It was like an old IBM or something.
That's an old early Mac.
Oh, it's an early Mac? Oh, yeah, look at the screen. He's typing like crazy.
He's coding up the formula for transparent aluminum.
Oh, fun. I was like wondering why there was chemical symbols flashing on the screen and stuff. That's hilarious.
Transparent aluminum?
Okay, enough. But that is what people are wanting, right? They're expecting at some point to have that Star Trek expectation where you sit down at the computer and you just say, "Hello, computer, do this for me."
Yeah. And or even through text or through other input means, but having a computer have intelligence and the ability to act is a tantalizing possibility.
Yeah.
But we're jumping the gun a bit on the ways we're trying to do that, I think.
We are. And even notice that as far in the future as Scotty came from in that when they said you've got to do it on the keyboard, he still knew what he was doing. So we can't forget what we're doing in the pursuit of this thing where we don't have to do the bits that we don't like right now.
Yeah, we don't want to have knowledge loss. And that could be a whole topic of a segment because I have feelings about that because I think we fear that happening a lot more than it actually happens. It's very much like, oh, the kids will forget how to write by hand kind of thing. But I do wonder because... Oh, we can't get into it. We'll have to do this in a different segment, Perry. But yeah, will AI make us forget?
There's a lot to unpack there, right? Because there's examples where that's happened in the past for sure, and there's examples where the way to do things have been important enough, at least in a distilled way, that people kind of have a collective knowledge on how to get there.
We'll have to explore that in a future segment. But for now, I think we're going to pivot over to this week's AI Dumpster Fire of the Week. To recommend you some books that don't exist. Stay right here.